2024 has to be the year of the Predator. At the beginning of the year, Cat Williams came out on Shannon Sharpe's podcast and said that the underbelly is going to show itself, that these big demons were going to expose who they really are. The demons are exposing themselves, but this time he's got a little
Who's the smallest you've ever had sex with?
Oh my God, did no one look at me, Cody Ko. I can say that. I was literally 17, I can say that.
Yesterday it was revealed that longtime content creator and app creator Cody Ko had sexual relations with fellow creator Tana Mongeau. And that wouldn't be the biggest conversation in the world. I mean, celebrities having sex with each other isn't the craziest thing if it didn't happen 8 years ago. Now, the significance of it being 8 years ago was the fact that Tana was underage. This was uncovered by longtime investigator exposer D'Angelo Wallace.
Someone has been alleging for years now that you, one of the largest commentary creators on YouTube, knowingly committed a crime against her when she was a minor. But YouTubers and viewers alike are ignoring and discrediting these allegations solely because the person making them happens to be an unlikable woman online, Tana Mongeau. And you know that people are ignoring this because nobody is working harder to bury the story than you. And you're getting away with it because commentary YouTube has a serious problem. It's been lost to time, and it's a wonder we have this on video at all. But if there was anything to give me any more clarity about these allegations before I formed my opinion, I was going to find it. Remember how Tana said that fellow YouTuber Gabby Hanna tried to stop you before everything allegedly went down? Well, did you know that Gabby is actually on record telling the exact same story several years ago?
One time, I told a guy, I saw him making out with a girl at a party who was underage, and I pulled him aside and I was like, hey man, you probably don't know, I know she like looks a little older, she's underage, watch it. And he's like, oh my God, thank you for telling me. And then he turned that.
This is really bad. It's not just your moderators, it's your friends and fellow YouTubers too. It's no coincidence that with the exception of the H3 podcast, I haven't seen a single channel over 1 million subscribers do so much as acknowledge that this situation exists.
Now, naturally, there's a lot to unpack there in these conversations. First things first, I made a video not too long ago about Sketch and highlighted the fact that his exposure was totally wrong. But there's a difference between this exposure and the exposure in the Sketch situation. What Cody did was technically illegal. He had sex with somebody who was 17 years old when he was 25 and knew it and still proceeded. There wasn't this concept of he didn't know her age. It was explicitly told to him. So therefore, exposing somebody who did something illegal should always happen. That has nothing to do with, you know, the whole Sketch situation, which I don't even want to necessarily get into, but there's a difference. So I applaud D'Angelo for doing things that other social commentary YouTube channels don't do. And that's my second point. The reason why a lot of people on the commentary side of YouTube don't get into these conversations with their favorites is because of the potential of it damaging their relationship. They don't want to have their feet held to the fire in situations where their opinions, criticisms, or just factually true information will be brought up. I know people might not like the way that I handled the situation with FaZe, but the fact that we can have a discussion and have a conversation is big. And I know a lot of people who have vested interest in Cody Ko in those relationships would never talk about this situation at all because they don't want to burn that bridge that he potentially has. But hey, I don't have a relationship with Cody Ko, so we can unpack it all day long.
We both know that Tana Mongeau is a YouTube personality with a history of lies, controversy, and genuinely problematic behavior that's become so entangled with her brand that her podcast is called Cancelled with Tana Mongeau. And speaking of this podcast, about a month ago, she hosted a live episode in front of an audience, and the conversation turned to you.
Who's the smallest you've ever had sex with?
Oh my God, did no one look at me, Cody Ko. I can say that. I was literally 17, I can say that.
This clip started making the rounds and people were understandably perturbed because if Tana Mongeau was 17, you would have been 25. So people started speculating and Tana decided to set the record straight.
I hooked up with Cody Ko when I was 17 and he was 25.
I think another thing that's interesting about this story as a whole is the fact that people don't like her. So this is the reason why this has been able to be swept under the rug. Now, look, I'm not well versed in 2010s internet culture, but it seems like this was something that was abundantly clear to a lot of people, but because she has an unlikable personality, she is divisive, or people have all these feelings to her, it is okay that this is a story that, you know, just goes up underneath the rug. This is part of the reason why I feel the way I feel about cancel culture is because it does not matter. People can know this information and it really changes nothing. You may have to get low for a second, but ultimately, if people want you to succeed, if these companies want you to succeed, or if you have relationships that may compromise other people's relationships and you are just that guy, ultimately, you'll be back to where you are. Now, I know a lot of people have issues with her age because in their state, 16 might be the age of consent, but D'Angelo talks about that as well.
Gabby Hanna at a playlist live where she pulled him aside and told him like, yo, she's 17. And then we still went and hooked up.
To be clear, 17 is under the age of consent in many states, including Florida, where playlist live used to take place. So this means that Tana Mojo is accusing you of statutory rape, and she's not trying to hide that.
This isn't just some crazy tea. It was a crime.
Nothing would make this situation better, but plenty of things make it worse.
I think it's important here to discuss something that's disgusting because a lot of people do feel this way. Age of consent is here for a reason.
Why does that define the age of consent? I said the age of consent is the age of puberty, once the body is mature. Oh, I know some people, I went through puberty when I was like 17. That's why the age of consent being strictly exactly on this second 18. This is the correct age, not 1 second more, not 1 second less.
Now, I don't really care what people say, even if you feel like the law is arbitrary. The fact that you know what the law is, and we all know ignorance is not an excuse, and there is a law for it, and you decided to subvert the law because you needed to have this power dynamic over this person is actually disgusting, and it says a lot about you as a human being. But I know a lot of people are gonna say, hey, Omar, the power dynamic conversation, that may be a little bit too much, but apparently he knew that she was a fan, which also speaks to the power dynamic and the power imbalance that Cody Ko had on this young woman.
Nothing would make this situation better, but plenty of things make it worse, like the fact that she was a fan of yours at the time, adding an additional layer to the power dynamic you would have had over her.
I grew up loving him, and I think you know what I mean? Like, I was just like excited and a fan.
Tana seems to have many feelings about this, which we'll go over a bit later, but she stated very clearly that the actions she's accusing you of are inexcusable.
If I had a 17-year-old daughter or a little sister or something, like, I would kill. I would never let it fly.
We've seen this happen in recent times. In a world where the content creator and their audience and fans have this close connection and they're able to connect via Twitter messages, Discord messages, Twitch messages, and all these other platforms, it's kind of disgusting to know that these creators might take advantage of the relationship that they have with their fans in order to, you know, gain sexual access to them. It speaks to who you are as a person if you have to use that as a leverage play in order to do sexual acts or get favors over on these people. You're preying on their fandom, and it's as simple as that. Now, I think a lot of people believe that Cody Ko is a good person based off of his on-camera presence. He's very likable, laughable, and he's been a mainstay in the public's eye for a long time. Just an overall quote-unquote good guy. Now, some people do have bad experiences with him, as some people have come out in certain times and said that, hey, on a phone call, he made sexual jokes, etc., etc. But when you have a big backing, a lot of people don't care about any of that stuff. Now, on the opposite end of that, Tana Mojo has like a crazy bad reputation. In 2015, she accidentally witnessed her friend in her life, and she turned that into like a story time. She's also been known to have pulled a Logan Paul back in 2016, where she showed a what seemed to be dead body, and overall does not have the best reputation. Now, with all that being said, that does not excuse the fact that Cody Ko did what he did. It was wrong, and she's also been trying to get this story off the ground for the longest of time and tell people about what happened to her and have anybody care.
I was 17 at the time, 18. I started kind of hooking up with other people. Shout out JC Kalen, shout out Cody Ko.
But what lends the most credibility to Tana's claims, and what is really the most damning thing for you, Cody, is a clip that you might not have even seen yet. See, I read the Rolling Stone article, I watched the YouTube videos about this, and they all missed something. And I understand why. The clip I'm about to show you is extremely hard to find. The original has been lost to time, and it's a wonder we have this on video at all. But if there was anything to give me any more clarity about these allegations before I formed my opinion, I was going to find it. Remember how Tana said that fellow YouTuber Gabby Hanna tried to stop you before everything allegedly went down? Well, did you know that Gabby is actually on record telling the exact same story several years ago?
One time, I told a guy, I saw him making out with a girl at a party who was underage, and I pulled him aside and I was like, hey man, you probably don't know, I know she like looks a little older, she's underage, watch it. And he's like, oh my God, thank you for telling me. And then he heard that.
This is really bad. People make accusations all the time, specifically regarding things that are very difficult to prove or disprove, unfortunate as that may be. But when somebody makes an allegation and they say they have a witness, and that witness can be found telling the exact same story years before any of this came out, that's not something I can just ignore.
Now, I think it's disgusting that she tried to bring this to light and literally nobody took it serious back in the day. Cody Ko should have been canceled if people really believe that cancel culture was for real. But at the end of the day, people idolize idolize these people on the internet, their favorites, their content creators, but ultimately you do not know them. We've seen in recent times in like the Dr. Disrespect situation that the people that you guys idolize are not saints. Dr. Disrespect had plenty of reasons as to why people should not fan out over him, but because he slapped on a wig and, you know, made funny voices while playing a video game and could throw a football really far, people were ignoring things left, right, and sideways. It only took until a ex-Twitch employee to out him for people to really say, you know what, I'm gonna get off his bandwagon. And even then, people are still idolizing him. The parasocial relationships that people have developed with these creators has got to stop, especially even when these other content creators are telling you about these other content creators.
I genuinely felt like Cody has zero remorse. He doesn't give a shit. He's not gonna change his ways. The sad part about it is that I think the only way he will change, like maybe his processes or his thoughts on everything, is if he faces enough backlash. I believe that social media creators won't change if they are a bad person unless they receive enough backlash. Just like my brother was in a big controversy. He was a crazy, like out of control, filmed whatever he wanted and had this big ego and thought the world couldn't touch him until he ran into a brick wall. And I believe Cody will have to go through the same thing. I don't think he's big enough where people actually put him through a controversy so he can kind of like stay in his lane and talk shit. But I don't think Cody will change based off of our conversation at all.
Now, very rarely do I agree with Jake Paul, but I gotta agree with him here. And this was back in 2019. Oftentimes we'll see creators that we grew up watching and idolizing go through situations in which they feel like they can skate through because at the end of the day, the eyes are still there, the money is still there, and people are still talking about them. And people are gonna give justification as to why they do not give a fuck about what this person is going through. We've seen it in recent times with literally any and every creator from the WL, no matter how big, no matter how small. We've seen it in sports, no matter how big, no matter how small. Somebody is going to give a justification for as to why people can do what they do. Nobody's gonna put their feet to the fire. Nobody is going to hit them where it hurts between their views and their pocket. And then the person is just going to continue going through life and nothing will change. And one of the justifications that people give for this is the fact that they believe that the victim always has to be perfect.
And frankly, Cody, the allegations against you seem to have been corroborated. But instead of researching to find these answers like I did, many of your fans seem far more interested in attacking your accuser.
I have seen so many comments, but what was she wearing? It's Tana, so who cares? Well, it's Tana Mojo.
The reaction to this has been unsurprising but incredibly disappointing. Demanding proof that they know she can't provide, acting like she's only doing this to gain clout or ruin you somehow, despite the fact that she's never once put your name in a video title over this. Or worst of all, implying that a 17-year-old could have truly consented to any of this. But let's be clear about one thing. That is not the case. No amount of retroactive age calculations or what-if scenarios change the fact that what Tana described would be, objectively speaking, a crime.
I know people love to believe in Santa Claus, and they will use any rhyme or reason to debunk why Santa Claus would not exist because Santa Claus is one of their favorites. But if Santa Claus is a rapist, then you should kick Santa Claus out of your life. I don't know how crazy that is to say. Why are we trying to justify the fact that this woman is flawed and therefore she deserves to have this thing happen, or we don't care that this thing happened to her? It makes no sense to me. So do we only care about crimes if they happen to good people? At that point, do we have to do a deep dive into everybody's background? And I've seen stuff like this happen on the internet where something bad can happen and people's immediate reaction is, hey, let's search their tweets to find out who they are. Let's search their Instagram history to find out who they are. Let's search their Facebook to find out who they are. You shouldn't need the validation of if they are or aren't a good person to care about the tragedy that they went through was bad or not. That doesn't make any sense. A crime is a crime is a crime. Simple as that. And I think what's also is extremely nasty in the situation is these people that are crazed fans are only getting validated because some of the big commentary channels just are not talking about this at all. Commentary channels provide people with news and information, and just because you don't want to destroy the relationship that you have with Cody Ko does not mean that you should not be willing to out a predator, especially seeing as to how Cody Ko does a job of kind of hiding how he did something wrong or did something nasty.
And he texted me like, are we good? And was like, I said, yeah. And like, he was like, my wedding's coming up.
You do have a history of making bad choices when you're terrified of people finding things out, like your history of using slurs.
5 nigga, 6 nigga, 7 nigga, 8 nigga, 9 nigga.
There's more clips than that, but the reason most people are blissfully unaware of them is because you posted your vague apology not on Twitter, not on YouTube, but on Patreon, despite acknowledging in your apology that the clips were surfacing on Twitter.
And now from my understanding on your Reddit, moderators are obliterating any sort of comments or any sort of post that have anything to do with with D'Angelo's video. But that's because you have a community, rather a cult, that is doing a job of hiding and protecting you and your image. I want to take the time here to applaud D'Angelo for what he did. People like him should be highlighted and celebrated in the commentary space because it was a very brave effort, because he decided to expose somebody who was committing crimes and covering them up continuously throughout the years. I know he had taken a break for a minute, but I'm glad that he came back with such a banger, and to let people know that they need to stop idolizing these people that are content creators. If any year, this is the year to know that some of your favorites are just for entertainment. They are not people to back seriously, and you should not be a Codyite or a disrespect guy. Like, you should be your own person watching these people for pure entertainment value and nothing more. These people have too many skeletons in their closet to get fully wrapped into. Let me know what you guys think though. This is disgusting.